Deborah?
Second Chance is the domestic violence shelter in Calhoun County, and I'm a domestic violence advocate specialist, and I deal with the ladies and the children when they come in. The shelter itself is in an undisclosed location, and when the ladies come in, typically what we do is we do an intake. And I'm not there because I don't actually work at the shelter, but we have some great case managers that work there. So we'll bring the ladies in, we'll do an intake, we'll get some information from them. And within about 72 hours, we usually let the client sort of regroup once they get there, because they're usually coming from a pretty traumatic situation. Right. If they're coming into shelter, that means they're fleeing from danger. So they've just been through something pretty traumatic. So we let them come in, we do an intake, then we sort of let them rest and regroup, and then we start talking about what we're going to do for the future. Because the shelter is really just a transitional place for them to be. They come in, hopefully we can get them safe housing somewhere. Not necessarily in Anniston. If they want to go somewhere else, that's fine. Typically, I prefer them to leave this area.
So do you have a referral type?
We refer to so many different agencies. Okay. I mean, we work so closely with every nonprofit, service agency, organization in Anniston. We just have connections with everybody to help these women get on their feet. So we will refer them to legal aid, to help them get a divorce. Counseling, we're starting a support group for them. They do life skills training. We send them out to do that. Take them to the thrift store that we have to get clothing. We talk about they want to get a GED, because a lot of these ladies don't get to graduate from high school because their husbands, the perpetrators, want them to drop out of high school. Talk about GEDs, possibly going to college. Just, a whole array of things that we just sit down with them and just talk about making the future better.
What are some of the warning signs to domestic violence?
Besides the physical, which everybody sees the physical, that's that's really easy to identify. But
there's so many other ways.
But the more insidious ways that perpetrators keep us down, keep victims down, the isolation, the physical isolation, keep them away from family and friends, not letting them out of their sight, economic deprivation. If they work, keeping the paycheck away from them, making them turn over their entire paycheck. Or if they don't work, making them ask, the perpetrator will make them ask for money. Emotional, just the name calling, the constant put downs. I think that's probably what I hear most from my clients is the constant put downs, because that is something that you can do 24 hours a day to your victim. You can't, when you're out in public, you can't necessarily punch them or kick them because that's too obvious. But the put downs are something that are really easy to do. If you're out in public, you're just really stupid, you're really dumb, and just things that hurt your feelings and demean you. Those are what I hear mostly.
What are some of the ways a lady can come back at that if someone talks to you that way? Without actually being in, doing the same thing yourself, without getting into a debate.
I typically tell them just to ignore them if they can, because really what they're looking for is some sort of engagement and conversation, so that they justify in their mind, well, I said so-and-so and she said so-and-so, and that just made me mad, so I went off and hit her.
So don't argue back, just try to ignore it as much as you can.
I hate to say not to argue back, because everybody's different, and I don't really necessarily want to tell somebody what to do. You've got to do what you think is best for your own safety. If it's a safety issue, I think you need to do whatever you need to do. But typically I would say probably just ignore them in order that they don't, it doesn't exacerbate the problem and it doesn't make them more angry. Not that if you said anything to them that would give them the right to hit you, because it doesn't. Right. I mean, if you did come back with something and they said, well, I did it because, you said so-and-so, that still doesn't give them the right to hit you, but maybe keeping quiet and walking away is a safety issue.
What would be the first step for someone who is going through this? They would need to call you, I'm sure, at the center. Give us the telephone number.
The Second Chance telephone number is 237-7335, or they can call 1-800-650-6522. That's nationwide in Alabama. If they're out of the state of Alabama, they can call 1-800-799-SAFE, S-A-F-E.
Tell us a little bit about your place and what a person could expect if they stay there.
If they go to the shelter?
Yeah.
We do have rules and regulations. It's, you know, it's a house full of women and children who are going through a lot of the same stuff that you're going through. So we have rules. They come in. We have a full kitchen that they have access to. We provide food for them, but they can buy their own food if they like. We have a laundry schedule, and we have, you know, they have to do chores, and so it's not like they're going in and just hanging out and just, you know, relaxing. I mean, we do let them do that for a few days, but what we want them to do once the victim gets in there, because a lot of times they have been in that codependent relationship. You know, somebody is doing everything for them, not because of, not the victim doesn't want it that way, but because the perpetrator just sort of overtakes their life, and so they do become a little withdrawn. So we sort of try to force them out into, you know, the real world. There are chores to do. You know, you do have to work, and you do have to go to school, and you do have to, you know, follow the rules and the regulations. But it's a great place. I've seen a lot of women come through. It is a safe harbor. I've seen so many women just after 2 or 3 months come out on the other side just amazing. From when they first came in, they were so withdrawn and quiet, and then 2 or 3 months later they leave and they're like, I got a place to live, and I'm going to school, and I got a job.
Tell us about some of the success stories. I know you've had a lot. I know you can't mention names.
I can't, but I have one. She was an older lady. She is an older lady. She came in, and she's just incredible. She came in. She has a serious disorder, a disease. She'd been through just horrendous abuse from several different people. She came to me in October, and I took her to shelter, and now she's just amazing. She has her own apartment. It's beautiful. She has several part-time jobs. She looks great. She's taking great care of herself. She told me the other day that her body doesn't ache, she doesn't hurt. She's lost like 30 pounds.
That's so rewarding for you.
Oh, it's, you know, and I'm just so proud of her because she had the perfect excuse. I mean, she's been abused since she was 9 years old, and here she is in her early 50s. She has the perfect excuse to say, well, you know, I've just had this horrible life. I'm just going to sit back and do nothing. But she has just worked and worked and worked and worked, and she's just.
But she wanted to.
She did. So. She did. She wanted to, and that is.
Are you finding there's a pattern there? If they were abused at home, they'll marry someone who will abuse them?
Sometimes I feel like they don't have choices. They have been told their entire life that they're ugly, they're worthless, they're fat, they're ugly, they're stupid. Who would want you? So, I mean, I could see how someone could come along and see this, you know, vulnerable victim here and say, oh, well, this is, you know, and perpetrators do look for victims. You know, they're going to look for somebody who's fairly vulnerable. So I could see that there would be a pattern if someone has been abused previously that they would sort of.
That sounds like a weakness on the perpetrators. To me, I mean, because.
Well, and we know that that's what perpetrators are. Perpetrators are weak. They're looking for power and control. That's why they do what they do, because they feel an insecurity within themselves, and they can't. They don't feel good unless they're. You know, we've all heard people saying, "Well, misery loves company." If you're a miserable person, you want everybody else to be miserable. Well, it's the same thing with a perpetrator. They're insecure, so in order to make themselves feel better, they have to put somebody down. And what's better to them in their mind than to have this woman here who, you know, they can just badger on a daily basis, and supposedly that they think it makes them feel better.
And they're not only badgering the wife or the woman of the house, but also the children. You know, we're seeing a lot of men are killing children, stepchildren.
70% of children in an abusive home are going to be abused by the perpetrator. That's just a fact.
I know, just a recent one, I think this is in Kansas, and a man murders his stepdaughter and her best friend.
Yeah, power and control. I mean, what better way to get back at the wife or the girlfriend than to murder their child? You know, that's just the ultimate power and control. So, you know, these women who stay in these homes and they think that their children are safe, they're not safe.
I don't see how you could see that. What would be some of the warning signals there? I mean, other than, you know, to me, what's just there, what is
the abuse of the children?
Yes.
Withdrawn children, which in a domestic violence home, children are typically withdrawn anyway. because the mother's not able to give the children what they need. She's fending for her own life. She's trying to make her life livable and safe, and so it's hard for her to focus on her children when she's trying to get through the day. So the children typically become withdrawn, and it's just, you can see the child.
Yeah.
You can see a child who's grown up in a DV home. I mean, you can just look at them and tell that there's something going on with them. And I really, that's part of what I like to sort of start taking care of now. And when I do my outreach, I want to address the issue of the children that are growing up in these homes.
They suffer through this whole thing.
They suffer so much. Their brains are different. If you do a comparison of a child that grows up in a nonviolent home and the brain chemistry of a child who's grown up in an abusive home, even if they aren't abused, just being exposed to that abuse, their brain chemistry is different. It changes them.
Deborah, we're going to talk about that just as soon as we get back. We're going to a real quick break.
Okay. Get me off on that.
So, let's talk about cellulite and how we hate it and how there's gotta be a better way. Introducing CelluSculpt from Avon Solutions, the way to help make your thighs up to an inch thinner in 4 weeks. It's painless. New CelluSculpt helps increase circulation so you can dump some of that excess baggage. Let's talk about toning and firming and maybe even fitting into things. So, be lumpy, dumpy, and dimply, or call your Avon lady and order yourself a pair of slimmer thighs. Get CelluSculpt, the anti-cellulite treatment, only from Avon. So, let's talk about your age and how it's okay to lie. Why? Because Avon's found a way to outsmart the aging process with a new Retroactive, the #1 anti-aging skin cream. 100% of the women who tested it had fewer lines, less wrinkles. Let's talk about skipping birthdays, erasing years, and being 40 but looking 30-something. Let's talk about calling your Avon lady and telling her you need the #1 anti-aging skin cream. Order a new Retroactive. Pro-U skincare that works like subtraction.
Thank you for coming back. My name is Donna Feazell. I own the Avon Beauty Center located in the Quintard Mall, just right by Things Remembered and the food court, real easy to find. We have some very special products on special this week. It's a beauty preview bundle. Now what we mean by beauty preview is it's not in the books yet, so you can get a real quick glimpse at what is upcoming. So this is an entire basket full of stuff here, $75 value, only $49.99, so you're saving quite a bit of money, about 25 bucks. What's included are the 2 new lipstick colors, and this is My Lip Miracle. My Lip Miracle is a long-lasting lipstick. It's a matte. You can always put a gloss on top of it, but it's up to 8 hours lipstick. We also have Skin So Soft, which comes in the little packets, and they're all individually wrapped, so keep the bugs away. We're getting that time of the year, Deborah, and
Yes,
you know about
we
Skin
are.
So Soft. Now, we
Yeah.
don't advertise Skin So Soft works to keep
awesome.
bugs away,
It's
but it
awesome.
really does. And then we also have the new Bubble Bath, which is the country sunflowers. You also get the little bag, a real neat makeup bag. It's a quilted bag, little slots to put makeup in. And then we also have Ultimate. Ultimate is a new face cream for daytime use. Cleanse your face, use Ultimate. It has the sunscreen SPF 15 in it, along with the Gentle Breeze towelettes, SPF 15. You get everything there for $49.99. And let's not forget, CelluSculpt is also on sale. Regular $16, you get 2 for $20. That's only $10 a piece. And CelluSculpt works. Now, the neat thing about CelluSculpt, it takes about 2 weeks to see the difference, but then you have to continue using it, Deborah. You can't just use it one night and then expect it to work. Just like exercise. You have to continue exercising to see the true benefits of it. CelluSculpt, use day and night. You'll see a difference in about 2 weeks.
Wow. I'm going to try that.
Let's talk a little bit more about domestic violence.
Okay.
Now, you're going to get me started on a tangent when it comes to the kids.
I know. I feel the same way. Because they're not, it's not their choice to be there. They're with mom, and
Right.
mom is, in this situation. And of course, my heart goes out to mom too, because people don't realize, but it takes 5 to 7 times before the victim, or I've started calling her the survivor, before the survivor finally gets out and leaves. And so you can imagine those children are 5 to 7 times. They're in it, and then they're leaving, and then they're coming back. And when you come back, it's much worse.
And the kids are going to make a 50-50 turn. They're either going to do better in their lives or they're going to do worse and go down that same pattern.
And typically, unfortunately, they don't do better.
Yeah.
Children who grow
That's
up in
what
these
they're raised in.
homes are the children that we see in detention centers, the children that we see on drugs, the children that we see on the street, because they'd rather live on the street with their buddies than live in a home, you know, where this domestic violence is going on.
And most of them run away from home.
Most
at
of
an
them run
early
away
age.
home as soon as possible. The girls get married when they're, you know, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
They get into drugs, they get into alcohol. So these kids are very, very high risk
Yeah.
coming out of these situations if they make it through.
I know I can say what I would do, but I'm not in that situation. So I have to have a little more patience when it comes to this. My first reaction is get the kids out,
Yeah.
you know, as soon as possible. But if you're in that situation, you know, you have to walk in that other person's shoes.
And that's what really we have to think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens, I just went to a great conference. I went to the governor's conference down in Auburn last week, and we had workshops every day, and we had some incredible speakers from all around the country, just incredible speakers. And one of the workshops that I went to, the speaker compared the victim and the perpetrator to a terrorist and his victim. And that's really what it is if you think about it.
It is.
That perpetrator is like that terrorist. He is brainwashing you. He has told you repetitively that you're no good, that you're not going anywhere. And after a while, after 10, 5, 10, 15, 20
Start
years,
believing it.
these women believe it. So if you kind of put your mind into what they're going through, you can kind of see how after a while they don't know what's going on. All they know is what this man is telling them. And so they believe this stuff, this terrorism, this brainwashing is going on and on and on. And so if they do get out, I mean, it's a miracle if they do get out.
Yeah.
And a lot of them do. It's awesome. But they might go out and then they might go back. And then they might, and every time they go back, they get a little bit smarter, but the perpetrator gets a little bit more angry because he
feels like he's been done in.
Well, and domestic violence is about power and control. These perpetrators do this because they want power and control over their victims. So if you're leaving, what does that say to the perpetrator? I've lost a little bit of power and control. I'm going to up the ante a little bit. So it usually gets a little bit more violent. The domestic violence gets more intense, can get more dangerous. She hopefully will get, regroup and then leave again.
Do you find domestic violence is necessarily any social status?
Absolutely not. I've seen all genders, colors, socioeconomic.
So it's not just women who are being abused. Some
No, it's
men are
not.
being abused.
Yes, and same-sex relationships too. We had a case of a same-sex relationship, and she was being beaten by her partner. Her partner was beating her. So yeah, I mean it. And of course, we take everybody in. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are, as long as you're a victim and you need some help.
Now, I'm assuming if it were a gentleman, well, then you would send him elsewhere.
Yes, he would go to a motel. We would put him, as a matter of fact, the very, 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 very first client that we had was a gentleman. It's just kind of neat. And we haven't had one since that I know of, but
Yeah.
we definitely treat everybody the same if you're a victim.
Yeah. Well, you care about everybody. Let's go
Yes.
to a quick break, and we'll be talking a little bit more about domestic violence.
So let's talk about cellulite and how we hate it and how there's gotta be a better way. Introducing CelluSculpt from Avon Solutions, the way to help make your thighs up to an inch thinner in 4 weeks. It's painless. New CelluSculpt helps increase circulation so you can dump some of that excess baggage. Let's talk about toning and firming and maybe even fitting into things. So be lumpy, dumpy, and dimply, or call your Avon lady and order yourself a pair of slimmer thighs. Get CelluSculpt, the anti-cellulite treatment, only from Avon.
We don't just fall in love, we tumble. We sprint, we run a marathon. We fall down, we fall up. We fall senselessly and with great intelligence. We fall deep, we fall shallow, and if we're lucky, we fall first for ourselves.
Love begins with today, tomorrow, always. A trilogy of love from Avon.
We're back, and we're talking about domestic violence. Before we get into talking about domestic violence with Deborah, let's talk a little bit more about product. Again, we have the beauty preview package, and which is only $49.99. It's a $75 value. And we've talked about all the products listed there. Now we also have something in there for a guy. It's called Pro Sport. And it's a brand new product. And you know, Deborah, I have just as many guy clients as I have lady clients. Guys are buying skincare. They care, well, they're living longer and they care more about how they look. And it's not necessarily a guy versus a lady thing anymore. So guys are buying the Ultimate, which has the SPF 15 in it. Use that in the daytime. Now we also have another Ultimate product. If you're age 45 and up, you would use it at night. Now the SPF 15 is a lighter cream, so you can wear that under your makeup. Let's talk a little bit more about domestic violence.
My favorite subject.
Now we talked a little bit about the shelter. Let's talk about outreach.
Okay. Outreach is a big, huge part of what I do because it's easy to sit in the shelter and I mean, it's not easy to sit there, but we have a great shelter and we have this facility for these women to go to. And I talk to so many people and they don't even know that Second Chance exists. So if the ladies that need us don't know about us, then you know, we're not doing our job. So what we do, a lot of the advocates, we go out and we talk to people. We do presentations. We do stuff like I'm doing today, getting the word out, you know, get the number out, telling people what we do. It's it's my favorite part of what I do actually, is getting out and talking to the people, talking to the ladies, making eye contact with them, speaking to them about their situations, letting them know about Second Chance, sometimes just giving them a card. Sometimes the ladies aren't ready to come in. There's things that they need to process and go through and figure out before they actually come into shelter. So just for me to be able to give them a card and answer their questions. So we're really fortunate. We get to, lately we've been going into the high schools and talking to
high schools, churches, maybe?
Yes, churches, Kiwanis Club. I've done just so many different fun things all over Calhoun County and Claiborne County, because I do Claiborne County also. Just getting the word out, passing out materials to people, asking them to put up posters in their churches or in their stores, and everybody's always very receptive to us getting the word out. But it's real important for us to get the word out, or else these poor ladies are not going to know where to go or what to do, or you know, just have a number. Just give them a number and you know, my face and my name, and makes it easier for them, the transition.
Now, by the time they come to you, I mean, they're on their last leg.
Typically.
They can't take it anymore, so they call you.
Usually, yes. They are usually, by the time they call me, they have, if they're not just asking for info, they're ready to come in and talk to me and go into shelter and move on, leave all that behind and move on.
On a percentage, how many of those ladies go back to the perpetrator?
Quite a few. Unfortunately, they go back. But the thing about it is at the same time, those ladies, at least they've left that first time.
At least that seed is planted in their head that they can do better.
Yes, and they've been to shelter, or they've talked to me, or they've talked to another advocate. They know they have options, which I think is the most important thing. A lot of these ladies don't know that they have options. They think that they just have to stay in this situation. So if they've even gone farther than just talking to me and actually have spent time in shelter, they know. They know they have a chance. They know they have an opportunity. They know, and if they go back, we understand that happens. We understand that once you come into shelter, you are probably going to go back. I mean, we know this statistic is astounding, but we realize that it's true 5 to 7 times. So then they come back the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time, and they get stronger and they have more information. And you know, sometimes it just takes one time. I mean, I had a client, this client of mine, that was it. She came in, she talked to me, she went into shelter. She's got her a fabulous apartment, and she's not going back. I mean, she will not go back, ever.
Do you have anything the husband or the perpetrator can do, any kind of guidance for them?
There's a perpetrator intervention program.
Tell us about that.
I don't really know a whole lot about it. I know there's one in Jacksonville, because I don't deal with perpetrators, I just deal with victims. I know that there's a program that's very intensive, and you know, these men have to want to change.
Well, it's like any addiction, you have to
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. It's an addiction to this power and control thing. I mean, they've probably been doing it their entire lives. So they probably learned it as a child from dad, or an uncle or a grandfather, an older brother, because domestic violence is a learned pattern of behavior. It's not just...
It could be that they've been a victim of something in the past.
And it's learned. It's learned. They learn how to behave this way. This is how they learn how to deal with issues. So it takes quite a lot of work for them to first admit, I've got a problem, and then to actually go to an intervention program and to get some help. It does happen.
Because in a way, they're shocked that they really don't even think they're a perpetrator.
Oh, no, of course not. Just like with an addiction, if somebody came to you and said, you know, I think you've got a problem with your drinking, that's not what you want to hear. You're naturally going to be real
Start backing
defensive.
off.
Yes,
Yeah.
until you're ready, you know, and just like all of us, we have to wait until we're ready to hear that and then to do something about it.
Well, are there ways you can train the victims to go back and maybe help them to see what they're doing wrong?
Oh, no, no.
You have nothing like that?
No, no.
Now, what happens if the husband finds out where she is?
If she's at shelter?
Yeah.
We haven't had that happen before. I mean, we've been at this place for a while, and so we're good so far.
Sounds
But if someone were to find out where we were, then we'd have to move. We'd have to
Deborah,
relocate.
we're going to a quick break, and then we'll be right back and talk more about this.
So, let's talk about giving your skin an ultimatum, like it's now or never. Change your moisturizer or face the consequences. Only a new Ultimate was formulated to transform your skin. 90% of the women who tested it saw it happen. On the forehead, around the mouth, the eyes, the jawline, a total transformation. In a day, a week, a month, you can see too. So sag back and be puffy or call your Avon lady and defy age altogether. Transform your skin with the new Ultimate, only from Avon. So, let's talk about your age and how it's okay to lie. Why? Because Avon's found a way to outsmart the aging process with a new Retroactive, the #1 anti-aging skin cream. 100% of the women who tested it had fewer lines, less wrinkles. Let's talk about skipping birthdays, erasing years, and being 40 but looking 30-something. Let's talk about calling your Avon lady and telling her you need the #1 anti-aging skin cream. Order a new Retroactive. Pro-U skincare that works like subtraction.
We're back, and we're talking about domestic violence. Now, you know, Deborah, Salma Hayek, movie star, is our Avon spokesperson for against domestic violence. Now, if we want to someone wants to get in touch with you about a speaking engagement, how do we do that?
Call our administrative assistant, Valerie Williams, at the admin office. The number is 236-7381, and Valerie will get in touch with us because there's different ones of us who cover different areas, so she'll get in touch with whoever needs to get in touch with to do a speaking engagement, but she's great about doing that, so we love to do that.
Is there a cost involved?
No, absolutely not. There's no cost. We do it free of charge. We go in wherever you like, schools, churches, high schools. I mean, elementary schools. I've done so many different things, just things that I wouldn't think of that people ask us to do, but you never know.
I think the earlier in age, the better.
Definitely. We went in last October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and last October we wanted to go into the elementary schools. We didn't get an opportunity to. We actually went to the high schools, but we had really tried to get into the elementary schools because you can never reach these children.
And sometimes the little children can lead the mothers or the victim.
Definitely.
If they know what's going on.
And they know what's going on. These kids that grow up in these homes, they know what's going on. And they do want some answers. They want someone to talk to them about what's going on and what can I do and can I help. And to give them that power, you know, that this is what's going on and it's not your fault. And hopefully we can, you know, stop a perpetrator from being a perpetrator or help a future victim from being a victim. If we get to them early enough.
Domestic violence. Thank you so much for watching. And thank you, Deborah, for being here.
Thank you. This is always such a worthy